Welcome to this podcast number 17. And as I've said every time, it's an improvised podcast. It's not really worked out. Sometimes very important in these days that we have something which is just an improvisation. And that's the case with this podcast. So welcome. Today, what should I talk about? I was thinking of something. You know, sometimes the most important things are simple things. Not only simple things, but simple things in playing and performing. And it's not always so simple. But I think it's so important in the way of playing that we do things simply. And we can talk about that perhaps, because this is, of course, a podcast basically about the art of listening. And that shouldn't be difficult to do, should it? I mean, we've got our ears, usually they work, so we don't have to do very much. We don't have to turn them on or off. In fact, it's rather difficult to turn them off. We can't do that. We can close them this way, but we still hear something. Anyway, I guess that was the way it's all been fixed for us in the way we've been made and built. I just got something from my colleague here, from Maurice. He gave me a work. He said, "Can you play this?" And I thought, well, why not? We look at it, and he's wowed about these pieces, and I think they're very good too. From what I see of them quickly now, I think they should be really recognised and played by more young people. I think even older people would have much pleasure from them. But I'll just go through a few of those pieces and let you hear what he's been suggesting, and what I think is also very important to let you know, because it can be very, very good. Here is the piece, and it's a piece by a actually a Belgian composer called...
Dutch composer?
I don't even know that. A Dutch composer, Geoffrey Madge, and it's his Opus 17. And really worthwhile looking at. I will let you hear it. just an example of a piece, really a beautiful piece, and it's full of these works. There are so many other works that are just wonderful pieces, and they should really be played. Maybe I can choose another one, and I'll ask Maurice what he would like me to play.
From this book?
Mm.
The one page further, the fourth.
Fourth? Four. Okay. What's that? Ah, yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. Well, I would normally play it a bit faster, but my eyes are not quite so good as they used to be. And I'm reading them a little bit aside. But still, I think there's something in this series that's really worth it. The 8 Preludes for Piano, Opus 17 by Horst Meyer. And there's many other things. I'm being handed another piece now, which is, and this is a piece by, who is this by?
Horst Meyer, hetzelfde.
Oh, the same composer.
Wonderful composer.
Okay, here is this piece. So another nice piece to look at. Anyway, some of these things I would recommend very much to look into it. It's very interesting to check out the Dutch piano literature. There are some wonderful pieces that have been written. I was very much involved many years ago with performing a lot of these pieces, but not these pieces. They're, as I said, this is an improvised demonstration of what's available. And there's so much more. Really, I recommend it very, very much. I mentioned when I started the program about simplicity, and so many things have got to come out of simplicity. I remember one of the things that I learned when I was very young, which helped a lot in my piano playing, and I think it might help others also, but it's very simple. It's basically so simple that when you're playing, make sure you're on top of the notes that you've got to play. Be prepared. Be prepared on the notes so that you can actually relax more. If you're not relaxed and you are stretching and too much trying to get to notes, you're actually not relaxed anymore. So it's a wonderful thing to do that. And actually it's something I regularly just check out on my own playing to make sure I'm still really doing the most simple things correctly. I think the correct things are usually simple things, and we've got to really be able to do it as well. Well, you know, there's so many other things that are important. For instance, if you're doing what I just mentioned with the Chopin fourth prelude, for instance, I think, you know, you could do it. You could open your hand out and play it like that, but you could also play it like this. So that you're actually on top of each note before you play it. But you put your arm in a position that you're going to be able to do that. So if you do it like this, you're going to open your hand up and you play it like this. But I think it's better. just a bit of an idea. Following the hand, letting it float, literally float over the notes. And I think this is an old idea. It originated, as far as I'm aware, somewhere by Vladimir de Parkman, was a very great Polish pianist, and a pianist, a bit of an eccentric. He did some pretty crazy things in his day, and I could mention a few things. He knew very well Leopold Godowsky and Joseph Hoffman, and they went once to well, at least they didn't go, they didn't want to go. They were invited to a recital that Vladimir de Parkman was giving in London. And what happened was Joseph Hoffman said, "No, I don't want to go to him. I'm not going to go to his recital. What he did last time was so embarrassing to me. I don't want to have that repeated again." So I refused to go. Godowsky said, "Joseph, you can't do that. You've got to go. We've got to see our colleague playing. We've got to go to him. We've got to support him." So eventually Joseph Hoffman said, "Okay, I'll come with you. But we're going to sit right at the very back of the hall because I don't want him to know that I'm there." Okay, so they come into the hall and they sit at the very back. And what happened then was quite amazing. What happened was Vladimir de Parkman comes on the stage. He looks around in the audience. It doesn't see, of course, Hoffman, and or it doesn't see Godowsky because they're hiding basically behind other people. And then he says to the public, "I have a feeling that there's someone here who I like and who I really think should be able to see what I'm doing." And there's a dead silence in the hall. And of course, Hoffman and Godowsky, they sort of hide themselves, literally. And then Parkman says, "Could you have a look, everyone look around and see if you can see someone with this sort of hair and this sort of face?" And that's them. And especially one man, I need to speak to him. So everyone starts looking around in the hall, and of course, they identify Hoffman and Godowsky. So what happened then? Parkman says, "Oh, you're here, you're here. I'm so glad. Come, I've reserved a seat right in the very front, right next to the piano. I want you to be able to see everything." And then he says to the public, he says, "You know, this man wants always to see my fingering. He wants to copy me. And I want to give him the best place in the hall so that he can really see everything I'm doing." So Hoffman comes to the front of the hall. When he gets to the front of the hall, Parkman just pats him on the head. And then he goes, "Sit down." You can't believe that these things would ever happen today, can you? I mean, just imagine. This was in the early 20s, no, actually, I think 1918 and 19, very, very much in the 1920s. Can you imagine it happening today? Someone like that in the Concertgebouw or in one of these important big halls, doing something like that. Amazing. This was Vladimir de Parkman. He had this idea. His idea was the following, that the hand must be an extension and the fingers an extension of the key, and that must go right through to your shoulder. I think pretty good thinking, and it's certainly very good for playing every piano work I've ever played, and I think there's quite a few, and somehow I think you can learn a lot from just doing that, which means you've got to put your hand in a position that it follows a sort of line. Now, you can overdo it perhaps, but still it does help to keep the line right through to the elbow, and somehow to keep the finger long in a sort of extension of the key. A bit the idea of Alfred Cortot. He was very much in the same way, thinking of the same things. And you can see that in some of the films that Cortot has made. You can see the finger is an extension of the key. Now, they're the things that I've found very useful in the past and really sometimes I've been working on them very, very carefully. Now I'm a little older. Now I'm not doing that anymore like that. But in those days, I really was very busy with it. So I recommend it very much to young people. And of course, this music that I've just been playing, I recommend looking into it. Not only this pieces, but also the Schoenberg, Opus 19. Dreadfully important pieces. Just such wonderful pieces. Look, I've got them all here. It's amazing what's here. These pieces, I think they're all tremendous pieces. There's one piece which is quite amazing. Just listen to it. Isn't it a beautiful piece? Just so simple. And it says such a lot. It says almost such a lot in just a few lines, a few notes, just these repeated notes, just how that somehow gets a tremendous significance because of the rests that are between, which shows us how important rests are, how dreadfully important they are. And not only in this piece, but in anything, works of Beethoven or any composer, the rests and the moments that there's a pause, a long note, for instance, they are so important in music. Well, anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this podcast. And as I said, it's been a very spontaneous one today. So I hope you'll get into the piano playing and do similar things. Bye-bye.